Trying to lose weight? It's time to try Hers. At forhers.com/4u, you can access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss treatments tailored just for you. These include oral medication kits or compounded GLP-1 injections. Through Hers, pricing for oral medication kits start at just $69 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full upfront. No hidden fees, no membership fees. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help through Hers. Get started at forhers.com/4u to access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's forhers.com/4u, forhers.com/4u. Paid for by Hims and Hers Health. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at forhers.com apply.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams Super Sale and get 40% off paints and stains September 19th through the 24th. With prices starting at $29.39, it's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Whether you're looking to revamp your interior or exterior, we have you covered with bold hues, soothing neutrals, and everything in between. Visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store or shop the sale online. Delivery available on qualifying orders. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Operation Domination is underway. The ultimate game plan to dominate your NFL experience. With your hosts, Dan
You gotta be confident about your Achilles when you
Jay
show up.
Thornton,
Yeah, I mean, I got it.
and Adam LaRue. Don't hope to be great and dominate.
All right. Welcome back into another edition of Operation Domination. Week 3 bets, lining your pockets green. Not just fantasy football domination on this show. As always, I'm your host, Dan Mader. Make sure you download the Operation Domination podcast on your favorite podcast app, and you can check out all of our video content on the Fantasy Football Advice Network channel at FF Advice Net on YouTube. I am joined here with the great, the wonderful Mr. Chaz Velarde of championshipfootballs.com. Chaz, how you doing today, man?
Well, you know what? I had a Nostradamus moment with Thursday night. I said to the guys, listen, it's just too many points. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bump it up. I'm going to go to 9.5. I'll go to 9.5. It's minus 160, I think. But I really like the team total over 30.5. And I got lucky because they should. I mean, I should have the 30.5 early in the game, but he clanked one. You know what are you going to do? It happens.
Yeah, but you get to give me a field goal there at the end to break it free. I did hit on a James Cook parlay prop because I had him over his rushing yards and over his receiving yards totals. So his rushing yards alone took care of both of those for me. So that was great. Did miss on Josh Allen, who was throwing the ball like crazy in the first half, but fell about 20 yards short of his 236.5 player prop for passing yards. So that was the little bummer on that one, just because they just stopped throwing the football in the second half. It was crazy, especially since it was a close game. I thought it was like, this is the perfect game script that I was hoping for, and still didn't quite get it. But sometimes that's how it works in betting. I will say this, though. We have to celebrate the good times, right, Chaz? And we caught fire in week 2. Like, absolutely. I went 11-4 on the player props. Like, I'm going to drop.
The Rams game was sweet. The Rams game was just WWWWW. It was like 7 W's.
It was fantastic. And look, go for correlation. You're looking for a particular game script. You're going for correlation props. It's no different than when you're playing DFS or playing fantasy football leagues. Like, it's literally no different. The correlation sticks when you get a certain game script. And it went off like Donkey Kong. So again, tomorrow I'm going to be, or Saturday I should say, I'm going to be dropping the article on the huddle for another 15 props. Let's hope at 11-4. Would love to go 15-0 one day. We'll see if that ever happens, but we got to make the good times roll. And I know you made out pretty well too.
Right, but the beauty of it is it really isn't whether you go 11-4. It's how you go 11-4.
Correct.
So when you have those 13-1 parlays, because you hit 3 or 4 of them in one game, you know what? You can handle the 4 losses.
Exactly, 100%. So the ROI is definitely looking up as we head into week 3. Speaking of week 3, Let's dive into it, Chaz. So first on my list, I had the Green Bay Packers against the Cleveland Browns. Packers right now opening up as a -8.5 favorite in this game with an over-under of 42.5 as the full line of the game. I'll just give you some quick stats. The Packers are right now 2-0 against the spread this season. No surprise there. Here's something interesting, though. LaFleur, the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, he's 17-6 against the spread in September in his coaching career there. Very impressive that team is that good early on. The Browns couldn't even cover 12.5 against the Ravens. They got completely smacked. And the Packers defense, I think, is even better than the Baltimore Ravens defense. I think the Packers are covering this no problemo, but I'd love to hear what you have in this game.
Yeah, no, it is. It's one of my key games. Actually, I got it early and I bought it to -6.5. It was -135. And you'll hear me a lot with these big spreads. Remember, in the old days, there was never double-digit points. But I remember that one time when Seattle was rocking and rolling back in the day, when they had the young Russell Wilson, they were given like 17 points in an NFL game. It was bizarre. But here's what I saw with Green Bay. Their last 10 on the road, they've scored 24 points or more in all of them. In their last 9 home games, Cleveland has scored an average of 5 1/3, 5.33 points in the first half. And only 2 of those did they score more than 17. So I took that -6.5 for peace of mind. And that peace of mind is the same thing that I mentioned with the Nostradamus game, given 9.5. The difference between 9.5 and 11.5 in a football game is huge, and we saw it last night. So, yeah, I am keying the Packers early on Sunday.
Yes. So I think we're locking the Packers in as one of our top bets of the week as a team. I don't have a prop in this game, so you're going to see something this week. My props kind of came more so in bunches. I love being able to spread them out. I know I talked about this last week too. Like, you just can't bet when the value's not there. But it's you're going to see throughout the show. I have them really kind of bunched up in a few games that you're going to find out. But I do have one in our next game that we're going to talk about. So we have the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans divisional game. Can always get a little bit wonky in a divisional matchup, but the Titans just look like they can't move the ball. And one thing that I have harped on, and it's besides the fact that the Colts have been surprising with how good Indiana Jones, used to be Danny Dimes, now he's Indiana Jones, has been through the first 2 weeks, is that defense is legit. And they were banged up last week, and they still played decently against the Broncos in a tough game there. They're -3.5 favorites on the road. This is another game where, look, I'm taking the favorite in this one on the road. I see nothing from the Tennessee Titans that makes me think they can really push the envelope from that offense against any competent defense in the NFL, at least right now, until something gets figured out. That offensive line is awful. Their only weapon is Calvin Ridley. He can't catch the ball through the first couple of games this season. So I'm taking the Colts -3.5 in this game is for the overall. What are you breaking down in this one?
Yeah, I'm skipping more games this week than I'm playing. And when I say skipping, I mean I'm not diving in from the beginning of the game. I have my data sheet. I'm looking for what I'm thinking happens. If I see a trend, I see something that looks like, wow, this happened before, then I'll join it. But this is one of the games, and here's what I've got. In the first half overall, the Colts have scored 13 or more in 7 of 7. And we've talked about this before. When you're in week 3 and you say 7 of 7, you're going back to last year. For the game, 5 of 5, 26 or more. This is the first road game for them. They've been at home, but on the road in the first half, they scored 13 plus and 4 of 4, so the last 4 last year. But here's the stat that really got me. Tennessee's currently, including last week, on an 0-9 against the spread run. So that's at home. That's at home. My bad. At home.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really, it wouldn't be as bad if it was overall, right?
Right.
Because you're supposed to lose on the road, but that's not. That's at home.
No.
Listen to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. They've lost 13. So they're 2-13 against the spread in their last 15 games. And if you're betting, that's what matters, right? Against the spread.
Exactly. And it's just been a bad team for a while now, and it's not looking up just as of yet. And I haven't lost hope on Cam Ward, just for people who are out there wondering, like, oh, are we out on him already? No. But this is just not a good roster. Like, it was gonna take more than a franchise quarterback to turn this thing around in a year. I do have a prop for you. Speaking of Indiana Jones, I am going to cash the over on his passing yards prop, which is only set at 210 yards. Now, this is a game that's a little bit wonky because I can understand why people may be a little bit teetering on this one, because you could see it going a couple of different ways, right? When you get into two divisional matchups, one team is definitely inferior to the other. The Colts might go into Tennessee and say, hey, you know what? We can kind of just play it safe, not show our cards, kind of grind out an ugly win and still be okay. So you're like, well, maybe they won't throw the ball a ton. But 210 yards when Daniel Jones has been eclipsing that with 272 and over 300-yard performances the past couple of weeks, I'm not going to suddenly say that he falls off a cliff now. Yes, Tennessee's defense is not terrible, but they're on the field all the time. I have a projection for him of about 237 yards, so that's almost a 20-yard edge heading into this one. I think he covers the prop easily. Again, that's over passing yards on 210 yards. Okay, so let's dive into the Bengals and the Minnesota Vikings. Two backup quarterbacks. Joe Burrow out for at least 3 months. If you listened to my episode yesterday, which you should, go back on our YouTube channel at FF Advice Net or go back on the podcast app. I have Dr. Brian Scott on every single Friday morning. And what we talk about is the injuries. And he doesn't think Joe Burrow is coming back at all this season, given the nature of that toe injury. Wouldn't be shocking when you get a projection line of 3 months. Even if he was healthy enough to come back, who knows if the Bengals are even competing for the playoffs? So who cares? They might have no incentive to bring him back. So we might have seen the last of Joe Burrow for 2025, unfortunately. On the Minnesota side, J.J. McCarthy reportedly has suffered a high ankle sprain. That's 2 to 4 weeks, even for a quarterback. So now Carson Wentz comes into this game. When you get two backup quarterbacks, Chaz, I don't know how much I'm really looking to bet this game. It can go too many different ways with kind of a high variance to that nature. However, here's what I will say. Kevin O'Connell with backup quarterbacks is 5-1 against the spread with his backup quarterbacks their first week starting. It's a crazy stat. And the Vikings are up -3 in this one. So if you're going to bet anything, I would say lean the Vikings, but honestly, I'm staying away from it as far as the game lines go.
Well, yeah, and then, right, if you see Burrow's hurt, you turn the channel, right? The game is over. But they came back and they won the game. And Jamar Chase, by the way, the auction for Jamar Chase is live, and I think it ends Monday. But that dude is special. He's been special since we learned his name.
By the way, championshipfootballs.com to go ahead and check that out too. Yeah, so let's move on because I don't have any props in this game either. Because again, just a wide variance of game scripts that could happen in this one. I'm kind of staying away from it a little bit. Steelers and Patriots, not a game that if you're not betting or don't have fantasy football players in, I'm uber excited to watch. Okay. I'm just not. Even though the Steelers might be a good team this year, they're still not a fun watch. It's still an Arthur Smith offense. It's still a blue-collar hit-em defense. It's not very exciting on screen, at least. And the Patriots are still trying to find their way. Drake May's fun, but it's brutal having to watch him throw to guys who are just not truly getting open. Stephon Diggs is not Stephon Diggs, at least not as of yet. But as far as this game goes right now, Pittsburgh is favored at -1.5. I do think that is a value, considering at least on paper, Pittsburgh should be the superior team to the New England Patriots. So just to make this interesting, I am going to throw a few shekels here on the Pittsburgh Steelers to cover at least 1.5, basically almost taking them just to win the game. The over-under, by the way, 44.5. If anything, I'm taking the under, but I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole. Are you seeing anything in this?
There's a lot of trends in this game. Not enough to make me open my wallet, go up to the window and say, hey, to the pretty lady, give me money on this game. But in the first quarter, Pittsburgh is currently on an 0-9 against the spread streak. Now, people say, you must be a degenerate. You best bet first quarters. Well, you know what? When I win them and then you lose the game on the same team, who's the degenerate then? You know? But so listen to this. So for the first quarter, Pittsburgh allows 7. They're 0-9. They allow 7 or more in 8 straight. On the road, they allow 7 or more in 7 of 8. And how many times does the team march down the field, they score a touchdown on their first drive, and that's the end of the first quarter, basically. It's, it takes up 8 minutes.
I mean, you get a solid drive. It's half the quarter right there.
Yeah. Home games, they've allowed 27 plus and 6 of 6. But can I get 26 points out of New England? At home in the second half, they scored 9 or less in 4 straight. So, yeah, I agree with you. Not a game to watch.
Yeah. All right. So let's just move on here. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I do have a prop in this game. My bad. Speaking of the Patriots, by the way, Drake May, his passing yards prop is at 220.5. It's another one that I have projected at about 240 heading into this game. Drake May's been over 220 yards the past 2 weeks in a row. Like I said, he's fun to watch. It's not fun that his receivers, he has to make it so hard on himself because of that reason, but he is fun to watch, and he is putting up production. The Steelers' defense for the first 2 weeks has not been a good defense at all. So give me the over on Drake May's passing yards prop actually heading into this game. So I'll make it a little bit interesting, at least that way, Chaz. Okay, so Rams, Eagles. This one is going to be one to watch. And this one, I have a few prop bets that we're going to get into at the end of this. So right now, coming into the ball game, it's in Philadelphia. The Eagles at home are 3.5-point favorites, and it's a 44.5 over-under. Rams are 2-0 at the start against the spread so far. This could be a close game. Remember, the Rams were a snow last drive away from knocking off the Eagles in the playoffs, who went on to be the Super Bowl champs. So it's a Rams team it's a bad matchup for the Eagles. They know how to play against this team. They know how to play against Vic Fangio and that defense. But what do you have in this game, Chaz?
Shop the Sherwin-Williams Super Sale and get 40% off paints and stains September 19th through the 24th. With prices starting at $29.39, it's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Whether you're looking to revamp your interior or exterior, we have you covered with bold hues, soothing neutrals, and everything in between. Visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store or shop the sale online. Delivery available on qualifying orders. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Yeah, the Rams are currently on a 7-1 against the spread run, and on the road it's 6-0 against the spread.
Oof. Oh, Nelly.
Yeah, with the Eagles in their first quarter, they've scored 7+ in 6 straight. But the defense is there. The home games, they've allowed 20 or less in 6 straight. This is the only game where I am betting this game without the point spread. I don't care what the minus number is. I'm taking Philly at home.
Okay, just taking them on the money line, which, by the way, right now it's minus 180 on the money line, which is not a bad bet to have, by the way, on the money line. Everyone gets all, I feel like, bitter when you're like, oh, I'm not at least doubling my money. Like, if you got a good team, you got a good bet, you're going to make a profit. I don't understand what the problem is. But
if you look at fights, the same dude that says that to you will bet $30,000 on minus 380 in a fight night.
Exactly. And make a profit. That's the whole point of it. Maybe we're not betting $30,000, but the profit is a profit is a profit.
What you want to win? You got to say this. What do I want to win? What do I want to win? If I'm willing to win money, then I don't, But they remember that minus 185. They give it to you back. They don't keep it and just give you the 100. They give you the 185 back too.
Right. Exactly. What we could win money on is that I have a same game parlay set up, and it's the same game parlay I had it set up in week 1. It's the same game parlay I had set up in week 2. So if you're watching the show, you probably know where I'm about to go. But Stafford and Puka Nacua, I'm riding it. It's red hot, and it's looking great. Give me Matthew Stafford over 224.5 passing yards this week, and give me Puka Nacua over 74.5 receiving yards. First of all, he's been blowing the 74.5 receiving yards out of the water. Puka's all over the place. He's having a fantastic season. And Stafford, so it's funny to me, Chaz, and you're not as much into the fantasy world as I am. Stafford's somebody who gets completely and utterly overlooked in the fantasy world for a decent reason. He does not put up numbers in the way that score you a ton of fantasy points. He doesn't really run. He doesn't throw for a lot of 300-yard passing games, at least not at this point in his career, usually about 1 to 2 touchdowns. But he is as consistent as it comes with these props and these passing yard bets, and I love it. So I'm riding this same game parlay. It's been red hot for me the last 2 weeks, and it sets up really well, I think, again this week.
Yeah, I don't care whether it's a horse racing, it could be a high life fronton. If the same stuff keeps cashing for you and you don't bet it, you probably should really talk to somebody.
I talked to enough voices in my head, Chaz.
There you go.
Jets and Buccaneers. So, talk about quarterbacks not playing. Justin Fields ruled out on a Tuesday for a concussion, which makes me worried, and Dr. Brian Scott and I talked about this yesterday. It makes me worried that kind of already signals he might be out next week too. So just FYI for you fantasy football players out there. But heading into this game right now, Buccaneers favored at 6.5 points. Makes sense. Tyrod Taylor's coming in. The Jets have not looked good. They just got mollywopped a week ago by the Bills. That wasn't even a contest. Now the Bucs are not quite on the Bills level. They're dealing with injuries in their own right. Emeka Egbuka, he's probably not going to play. They list him as questionable, but he didn't practice at all this entire week. But they still have Bucky Irving. They still have Mike Evans. They still have Baker Mayfield. They still have their starting quarterback. That's a big thing there. So I'm going to take the Bucs to cover at -6.5. It is in Tampa Bay. The Bucs have been 2-0 against the spread so far. Both of their games so far this season have been on the under. Jets 1-1, but with Justin Fields not playing, I don't give him much of a shot in this ball game. What are you seeing?
Yeah, second key game for me is Tampa Bay. I remember watching last week. I forget who I was with, but I said, you know what? They just gave Baker Mayfield the ball with like a minute and a half left and two timeouts.
He doesn't even have to have a good game. Like 2 weeks in a row, he really has not had a good game, but he had that final drive in both weeks that just led it the way. It's all that mattered at the end of the day. So
here's what, on the road, the Jets have allowed 25 plus and 6 of 6 or 1-5-7 against the spread. Overall, the Bucs have allowed 10 or less in 9 straight, both of the games this year in the second half. And at home have scored 14 plus in 4 of 4. At home, they've scored for the game 26 plus in 6 or 7. But I think the key stat here is 2 games in a row on the road, and now they're coming home, where the Jets had 2 games at home, and now they're going on the road. I think that's worth 3 points myself.
Love it. So we're seeing that pretty much the same way there. We go to the Raiders Commanders. Another quarterback who's not going to play. Jaden Daniels already ruled out in this game. We're going to see Marcus Mariota. Remember him? Yeah, he's back in action for this matchup against the Raiders. The Raiders, by the way, I want to give a shout out to them. Their defense has looked a hell of a lot better than I would have expected them to look the past 2 weeks. Like outside of Max Crosby, I look at that lineup, especially on a depth chart on paper. I don't see a ton of talent, but they're doing it. Pete Carroll has got those guys playing hard. They're hard to run on. They're hard to throw against over the middle. The one place you can get them is on the outside. But guess what Marcus Mariota is not going to do? He is not going to challenge you on the outside. Right now, this game's sitting at the Commanders at -3.5. I think that this is an underdog special of the week, quite frankly. I'm taking the Raiders outright in this game, Chaz. That's what I'm doing. I think they have an upset in this one. What do you got in this game?
Yeah, the only stat that jumped out at me is in the second half, in their last 17 games. That's almost 2 seasons, right? No, overall, that's just 1 season. Home would be 2 seasons. So overall, second half, 14-1-2. So they've been over 14, pushed once and under 2. The problem is Las Vegas offense. I don't know if you're going to get any points there. And Brady may be in the booth, but he can't come on the field, right? Have they made that ruling yet?
Well, and look, they had a really bad game against the Chargers Monday night. No doubt about it. That has to be, since he's become the starter in Seattle, that has to be the worst game I've seen Geno Smith play in his second act of his career. Had to be, by far. And it was a divisional game where things like that can kind of happen. Geno's doesn't play that bad. They have Brock Bowers. They have Jacoby Myers. Ashton Genty's going to get going at some point. Here's the key piece for me, Chaz. That Commanders defense is not as good as people think it is. It's old. It's slow. They don't cover very well in the perimeter. They don't have a great pass rush. That's why 45-year-old Von Miller, they had to sign in the back half of the training camp. I don't think that defense is that great. So I think the Raiders actually have a bounce back game offensively, which is kind of why I have them as the underdog in this game. Let's go a game on Mac. Well, I shouldn't say I'm looking more forward to, but I am enjoying watching the Falcons play football because I have a soft spot for Michael Penix. They're taking on the Carolina Panthers this week. They're favored at 5.5 points. The over-under sitting at 43.5. For a team to be on the road favored at 5.5 points, that tells you Vegas right off the bat is saying this is without a doubt the superior team. And if you've watched Carolina the last 2 weeks, there shouldn't really be much of a question in your mind to that effect. And plus, Atlanta deserves a lot of credit for that Sunday night game. They put up points against the Minnesota Vikings. Here's another key. It's kind of similar to the Colts. The Atlanta Falcons defense, this is not the defense from last year. They're good. They're playing well. I know they lost A.J. Terrell, who may not play this week. He didn't lose him for the season, but this defense, because of what they did in the draft, getting 2 premier pass rushers, they're getting after it. Hiring Jeff Ulbrich, calling plays, and Bryce Young has looked like a deer in headlights, just like he did at the beginning of last season. Yeah, I'm taking the Falcons to cover without hesitation in this one. But what do you have in this game? I do have a ton of props in this.
Yeah, the first half, they're on a 6-0 against the spread run. The Falcons are. Carolina has allowed 26 plus in 8 of their last 9 NFL football games.
And everyone wants to look at this game like, well, this is the Week 18 rematch where, Michael Penix and Bryce Young went crazy. I'm like, look, Penix is playing well. Bryce Young is not. I don't see this being a back and forth ball game. But hold on to your seatbelts because, man, do I have props for you in this one. 3, in fact. So Bijan Robinson, and it is Bijan. We got confirmation on that on Sunday. His rush and receiving yards prop total is 110.5. He might get that just rushing. But FYI, I have him projected for 126 total yards heading into this game. I've talked about this on my fantasy football side of the podcast on Thursdays and Fridays, especially when we start talking about start sits and rankings and all that. The Carolina Panthers run defense did not improve at all from last season, and it was historically bad a year ago. Add to the fact that Bijan is the second most targeted player behind Drake London on my Falcons offense right now. Yeah, this is a smash hit for me on his rush and receiving yards at 110.5.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams Super Sale and get 40% off paints and stains September 19th through the 24th. With prices starting at $29.39, it's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Whether you're looking to revamp your interior or exterior, we have you covered with bold hues, soothing neutrals, and everything in between. Visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store or shop the sale online. Delivery available on qualifying orders. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Then let's take it to the Carolina side. I got Teteroa McMillan, 64.5 his receiving yards. To his credit, he's been over that the last 2 weeks in a row. I have him projected at about almost 74. He had 100 yards last week. Here's the silver lining to the Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young being so bad is that they get down by a ton in the second half and they have to throw. And guess what? The only guy who's worth throwing to right now in that Panthers offense is Teteroa McMillan. So I'm going to take the over 64.5. It helps that A.J. Terrell is probably not going to play in this game, the Falcons' top corner. So he gets an easier matchup there too. And then this one, Chaz, this one makes me laugh. I don't know if you've been paying attention to this. I know you don't pay as much attention to the player data lines as I do, but this one's hilarious. Are you ready for this? Xavier Legette, his receiving yards prop, and remember, this is the second starting receiver on the opposite side of Teteroa McMillan, is at 27.5. He has, in total, for the last 2 weeks, 8 yards. He had -3 yards in week 1. He's had double-digit targets and 8 yards to show for it. I don't know how much longer he even plays. He might get benched this week, and they have him set at 27.5. They're doing that because he's on the field. So the Vegas lines have to project him at a certain level because he's on the field a certain amount. He's that bad. Give me the under 27.5 receiving yards on Xavier Legette as one of my most confident bets of the week, quite frankly, based on what we have seen in the film room. Now, let's move on, Chaz. Let's go to and I got that off my chest. That was a big one for me. Texans and Jaguars.
I have to interject only because I was with somebody Thursday that had Knox. 12 yards he needed. And I remember Knox used to be catching a lot of passes. He don't catch passes, I guess. He's just blocking. And it was brutal. It's brutal to watch somebody that they dangled the number in front of them and like a fish, they grabbed that lure, and they never had a chance of winning.
I mean, I will say this, Chaz. I can't remember the last time Dawson Knox has gone over 12 yards. It's been Kincaid since they drafted him as far as the receiving tight end goes. So I don't know. But Xavier Legette has been awfully bad. So I'm definitely taking under there. Let's get to the Texans and Jaguars. So Jaguars, Texans, very uneven through the first 2 weeks, right? This is in Jacksonville. They're favored at 1.5. So the Vegas lines are basically telling you this is almost as 50-50 as you can possibly get because the home team's only favored by 1.5 points. No one's looked good. I don't have anything in this game. I don't have props. I'm not putting money on this game. Neither team is has impressed me. I guess that I will say this. The most impressive thing about either team so far has been the Jacksonville Jaguars running game. The reemergence of Travis Etienne and what Liam Cohen has done with him. And then Bashal Tootin had a decent game after they traded away Tank Bigsby in week 2. That's been the most impressive thing about either team. The offensive line of the Texans is bad. So bad. Oh, my God. I thought it couldn't get worse than last year. It might have. It might have gotten worse. And Trevor Lawrence, I think we all just have to give up on Trevor Lawrence ever being what we thought he was going to be coming out of Clemson. I don't have anything in this game. Do you?
I really did think. I thought he was special. I mean, it turns out, sometimes it is, of course, I saw a stat on Baker today, right? The one where they showed the canned, picked up by Tampa Bay, and since then leads the league in touchdown passes, But here's what I got this game. I do have a play in this game. It's the second half under because in the second half of their last 6, Houston has scored 9 points or less in every one and 10 or less for Jacksonville in the last 5. And so when you tell me they suck, that's a good thing for unders.
Well, I love that play in the second half, so I'll make sure I mark that one down and play that. Yeah, with Trevor Lawrence, it's maddening because all the tools are clearly there. He clearly has the arm. He clearly has the mobility. He clearly has the size. This is kind of his last chance. Not last chance to be a starting NFL quarterback. Don't get me twisted. They gave him a big contract. He's not going anywhere for a long time. But I think this is his last chance for people to still be on the bandwagon to some degree because Liam Cohen with Baker Mayfield showed you what he can do as a play caller if you're a competent quarterback. If they can't get this ball rolling, the blame's going to go to Trevor Lawrence. I can tell you that right now. Because of his contract, he won't go anywhere at least next year. But after that, it might get interesting real fast. All right, so let's go to the Broncos and the Chargers. This is going to be a good game, man. These AFC West teams are brutal. They're good this year. Oh, my goodness. So the Broncos and the Chargers, it's in Los Angeles. The Chargers are favored at just 2.5 points at home. And with the Chargers, it's understandable because they're at home is not an advantage at all. Because even when they're good, they still can't get guys in the stands, at least not the way other teams do with home crowds. The Chargers are the better team. Why are the Chargers the better team? Because they have Justin Herbert. Both coaching staffs are good. Both defenses are good. Both have competent players on the offensive side. The Chargers are just a little bit better on the offensive side, not just with the weapons, but with Justin Herbert. I'm taking them to win at home and cover this game. I do have a prop, but I want to see what you got in this one.
Every time they show this kid's numbers, they're comparing him to great quarterbacks of the past. I mean, he's done stuff in 3 years that, he's got, we looked it up the other day just for giggles. He's got 14 NFL records. Think about that. And then they've got the curse of the Spanos family, so that's got to cause them. But yeah, you got to like them here. But I do know that in the road, in their last 4, they have scored 24 or more, Denver, and the last 7 at 6-1 over. So I would say I think they'll get some points here. Overall, in the first quarter, the Chargers have scored a touchdown or more in 5 of 6, 13 or more in the first half, and 6 of 6 against the spread. In their last 13, they're 11-2. That's a big number. At home in the first quarter, they scored 7+ and 5 of 5. And at home for the game, they scored 23+ and 6 of 7. 11-2 is a great number. You like what you say, 11-4, right?
Yeah.
For you. And that was a great number.
Yep.
11-2.
11-2 is even better. Even better. Here's my prop for you in this game. Bo Nix passing yards, 217.5. I have the under. I have him projected just under 200 yards heading into this matchup. I know the Chargers defense is not going to have Khalil Mack. But believe it or not, if you haven't been paying attention, Bo Nix has not even gone over 217 yards yet this season. He has not looked good at all. He has not picked up where he dropped off last season in any kind of capacity. And that offense, everyone hated. Chaz, you know this happens. So I put a video out on TikTok. And I put it out on YouTube too. But it got more traction on TikTok. And I talked about, from a fantasy standpoint, how Sean Payton's offense over the past 5 to 6 of his seasons, I know there was a little gap in between, but 5 to 6 of his seasons has been a fantasy trap. Because most people still think about Sean Payton back with the Saints in like 2011 and what that offense was. His offense has not mirrored that in any kind of capacity over the past 6 years that he's been a head coach and a play caller. And I keep telling people, it's conservative. It's close to the line of scrimmage. It's turnover adverse. Therefore, you're not taking risks to get the big plays. And what you're seeing this season, while Bo Nix may have overachieved a year ago, he's coming back down to earth with the way that offense is called. I don't like it. Give me the under on the passing yards at 217.5. It's a fantasy trap, this offense. Now, we got the Saints, the Seahawks. Poor Saints, man. I mean, they actually played well against San Francisco, all things considered, to be honest with you. I mean, San Francisco was in control of that game, but Saints played well enough to make the score closer than maybe the game felt. And Kellen Moore, my hat's off to him, too. I mean, he wasn't supposed to have Spencer Rattler as his quarterback. It wasn't supposed to be Tyler Shuck. It was supposed to be Derek Carr, who suddenly had to retire, and nobody knew that was coming. And he is trying everything he can to throw the kitchen sink just to keep them competitive through the first 2 weeks. My hat's off to him. Having said that, the Seahawks are favored at 7.5 points. This is in Seattle. Even with the bigger line here, even though the New Orleans, they covered against San Francisco, and even though San Francisco beat Seattle, I'm still taking Seattle to cover here at -7.5. There's just not enough firepower. And the difference in this game is that the Saints are actually on the road. We haven't seen that yet. So I'm taking Seattle to cover in this game. I do have some props for you, but Chaz, I want to see what you have to say first.
Yeah, the Saints don't score in their first quarter. In their last 13, they're 1-12 to the under. Week 1 was a winner. Road half 2 scored 10 or less and 9-9. So they're not. When you go into halftime, you're supposed to come out with a plan. If you can't score 10 points, you probably didn't have a good plan. They scored 21 or less, 8 of 8. Yeah, you just got to score points. Unless you're the Bears in 86, you got to score points to win. Seattle, overall, in the second half, they've allowed 10 or less and 9-10. At home, though, in the first quarter, they're 0-7 against the spread. They had 0 points in the first quarter. So I got the under in the second half in this game.
All right, I like that. So we're kind of on the same page of how this game's going to go. Here's my props for you. So Jackson Smith-Njigba, receiving yards prop. I can't believe it's this low, but it's at 69.5 receiving yards against the Saints. The only reason why I could even think that Vegas would put it this low is because they're expecting a game script in which Seattle just runs out the clock, which could be true. But JSN has the highest target share of any wide receiver in the NFL through the first 2 weeks. He is getting featured like a number one guy in this offense. And even though Cooper Kupp had a decent game last week, there is no question who the number one guy is. So JSN against the Saints in a plus matchup, 69.5 receiving yards. I'm taking the over. I have him projected for 90, so it makes it one of the biggest edges of the week. I have another one for you, and it's on the Saints side. Juwan Johnson, who's been the toast of the town in fantasy world when you're looking for streaming tight ends. His receiving yards prop is at 42.5. Love that. Love that. I am taking the over on that. He has been getting averaging double-digit targets through the first 2 weeks. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Juwan Johnson's biggest issue in his career is that he's never been put in a position where he could be the featured tight end. It's been Taysom Hill has to get worked in. Foster Moreau has to get worked in. And then Juwan Johnson will get his slice of the pie, but not enough to ever make a huge impact. Well, Taysom Hill's on the pup. Foster Moreau's on IR. And as a result, Juwan Johnson's getting targeted as if he's a top-tier wide receiver right now in this offense who's throwing the ball 45 times a game because they're behind all the time. So give me Juwan Johnson over 42.5. By the way, Seattle has been bad against tight ends the first 2 weeks and has been bad against tight ends since last season. So this is one of my lock-em-in prop bets of the week. Oh, this is my favorite game of the week, Chaz. This is my favorite game of the week for betting purposes because I have a lot going in this game. So we got the Dallas Cowboys and Chicago Bears. The Bears are favored at home at 1.5 points. I'm not the over-under set at 49.5. If I'm betting anything, I'm betting the over in this game. I'm not betting anything in this game. You have two teams that are completely wild cards as far as how they're going to play throughout. But I can't wait till we get the props. But I want to see what you have here first.
Yeah, the only stat I got is that the Cowboys give up points.
Yeah, and that's true. And that's going to remain true, by the way. By the way, Chicago's going to also keep continuing to give up points just like they did last week, the Detroit Lions. Why? We have an indefinite timeline on Jalen Johnson's injury. We don't know exactly when Kyler Gordon is going to return. Their secondary are two Pro Bowlers, all pros, down right now. You can throw on Chicago. You can throw on Dallas. That usually equals a shootout. And I know it's tough to get those big shootouts back-to-back weeks. Dallas just had a big one with the Giants last week. That's what they're going to be built to do. Think about the Bengals last year. That might be the Dallas Cowboys this year. But that means prop city for me, baby. So CD Lamb, receiving yards over 80.5. I have him projected for 96 yards heading into this ball game. Roma Dunze, who's been the number one target for Caleb Williams, not DJ Moore. Roma Dunze, year 2, popping off. 61.5 is the receiving yard prop mark. I love it. I got him at 72 yards projected in this game against the Dallas Cowboys. And to top it all, oops, wrong button. There we go. And to top it all off, Jake Ferguson, receiving yards over 39.5. He has gotten 8 to 10 targets the last 2 weeks. I just think there's going to be a ton of passing. Chicago's not necessarily a cupcake against tight ends, but when you have enough volume, you can get 40 yards in this game. So I have Jake Ferguson over the 39.5. 3 props in that ball game. I'm looking forward to it. I am looking forward to this team because, well, it's my team, the Cardinals and the 49ers. But what's funny about this game is that I'm not betting it. I'm not. So the good news, if you haven't heard, there's a decent chance, at least, that Brock Purdy may be able to play. He was able to practice last 2 days, I should say, in a row. So maybe he actually gets to be able to play. We'll have to find out and see. It's a divisional game. While the 49ers have looked more impressive to me based on what they've had to do to overcome their injuries the last 2 weeks, neither team looks like a juggernaut by any stretch of the means. So I'm staying away from it from the lines. Do you have anything in this game, Chaz?
A couple trends here. In the first half, Arizona scored 13 plus and 5 of 6. But in the first quarter, the 49ers are on a 6-1 against the spread run in the first quarter. And at home, it's 7-0-1 against the spread. So if you like them, bet them early.
Well, that's interesting to me. That's coaching. That's an offensive coach, right? You come out, you have the script that you're going to run to open up the game. It tells me that Shanahan, because he's a good play caller, the script is very solid to open up a game, and that's why they typically tend to score early in that one. So I like that bet quite a bit. Let's get to Sunday Night Football. The Chiefs and the Giants. Ugh. I'm not sure how excited I am about this being a primetime game, but nevertheless. So the Chiefs 6.5 favorites are going into this one. It's a 45.5 over under. Straight up in night games, Giants are 2-19. Now, I know this is straight up, and you're not necessarily betting it straight up, but just let you know, you're not betting the Giants on the money line in case you were actually wondering. And Kansas City, straight up, 10-2 league-wide as a road favorite. So if you wanted to bet them straight up, it's minus 285. But as we talked about earlier, Chaz, a profit is a profit is a profit. You have to feel pretty good about that one. But I also feel pretty good about this line. The Chiefs are 0-2. They're looking for a bounce-back game. Russell Wilson, that was a facade, what you saw last week against the Dallas Cowboys. That had more to do with the Cowboys defense than it did to have that Russell Wilson suddenly drank the fountain of youth and the Giants found themselves in a 1 week matchup. The Chiefs defense is legit. I don't think the Giants score much more than 10 points in this game, just looking at the analysis on it. So I am taking the Chiefs to cover at minus 6.5. What do you have?
Yeah, I think this is it. This is the only game. The only game of this whole. I got 2 sheets of paper with notes out to the yin yang, and this is the only game I got nothing on it. And I look at the 2 teams and I see why. And yeah, I mean, remember the Chiefs had that period last year where they won, but they lost against the spread. Like,
oh, sure,
2 months straight. 2 months straight. We talked about it every week, I think.
Everything was a 1-score game. That's why.
Yeah. But no, the Giants, and I did watch a little Russell Wilson. Boy, I kept saying, it's like when you see someone that you used to admire and you're kind of lost or whatever. I would say, remember how good he was when he was a kid?
Well, and that's what's funny because Giant fans are going to be like, well, look how good he was last week. I'm like I said, it's a facade, man. That can happen sometimes. And you know what? The more I think about this, the more I think I might same game parlay this up. So I like the Chiefs to cover and I like the under in this game. I don't think there's going to be a lot of scoring at the end of the day. It's at 45.5. I don't think it gets to 40. Let's go to the Monday Night Football game. The Lions and the Ravens. This is going to be a big primetime game in this one. I finally have a great game on a Monday Night Football. Sometimes it's a little bit hit or miss. So Ravens at home. Surprisingly, I'm surprised the line's this big. So they're favored at 5.5 points. The over-under sitting at 51.5. That makes this game the biggest over-under of the week. I do have a prop for you when we get into this, but I want to see what you have on this game first, Chaz, because this is a game I don't know if I'm betting any of the lines on, the overall lines.
Yeah, I mean, listen to the scoring. The Lions have scored 31 plus and 6 of 7. On the road in the second half, they've allowed 10 or less in 4 or 5. In the overall, in the first half, Baltimore's allowed 10 or less in 5 of 6. And in the second half, they scored 14 plus and 6 of 6. But for the game, 31 plus, 6 of 6, 5 and 1 against the spread. At home, they're scoring 30 plus 7-8 with an over of 6 and 1. So both of these teams are averaging 31 points, and 31 plus 31 is more than 52.
That's fair.
You don't just get fantasy. You don't just get props. You don't just get sports betting. You get math.
You get math. I love it. So,
math domination.
So the only thing I'm nervous about, Chaz, and the only reason why I'm not putting my money on the over as much as I would love to see it happen, when you take Detroit on the road as an offense, they're a different team. Or should I say Jared Goff is a different quarterback. And that's more the issue for me than anything else. However, I will say the Ravens defense does not look fantastic. And I'm not looking at the Browns game last week because that, again, you're playing against Joe Flacco and an inept Browns offense. I'm not looking into that too far. But they have not looked fantastic the first 2 weeks.
You know, the thing about that Ford Field surface, it's like a track meet when they play there. You know?
Oh, it is. That's why it's such a huge difference, I think, when they're home and on the road. But let me get into my props. So it's the last one, actually. So Amon-Ra St. Brown. I can't believe it's said here after the game he had last week, but 68.5 receiving yards at the moment. I have him projected well over that at 88 heading into this ball game. He is the number 1 receiver. He proved that last week. He's been proving it for the last few years, over 100 catches over the last few seasons. And he just came off a big matchup in this one. This is a big game with a high over-under. That means there should be, game script wise, offense going on in this ball game. Yeah, give me Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't think Marlon Humphrey is good enough to actually shut out him. So I'll give him over 68.5 receiving yards in this game. I think this is the last bet of the night. So, Chaz, what do you want to tell everybody? What they need to be checking out? What are those auctions you have?
This I think this game sums up. You got to understand football. I'm a pretty knowledgeable football guy from just playing for so many years. What happens between the 20s has nothing to do with the game. It has everything to do with the props.
Yep.
And that's what happens in a game of 52 that doesn't go over. Red zone stops. But you could have a 75-yard drive and get 3 points. So if you're betting the points, you might be losing. But if your props are winning, okay. Remember, at the end of the day, you count the money you had in your pocket when you left the car in the parking lot of the sports book. You count the money you have in your pocket when you get back in the car. Don't matter how we got there. I tell people, I don't care if you went 6-0 and then 0-6, as long as you're coming out with more money than you went in. 6-6 is not bad.
Nope, I agree with that 100%. So, Chaz, what do people need to be looking out for? What are those auctions you have going on? What's going on with championship football?
You know what we're doing? I told you I've got some. It was really an exciting period for me. We had 7 auctions in 7 days. So the first ball we sold was the Giants ball signed by LT and David Tyree. Giants fans love that. We got the Dallas ball was signed by Drew Pearson, Bob Lilly, and Larry Brown. Now, Larry Brown, most people think the coach of the basketball team, right? Larry Brown's got 3 Super Bowl rings. If you're not a Cowboy fan, you don't know 3 Super Bowl rings. And then but the big ones coming up are Jamar Chase, LSU, the Green Bay Packers ball signed. And remember, LSU, I don't know, they may not win again for a while. The Packers, this is it. They've got a real good shot, right? They got to be considered a favorite. But that's signed by C.J. Hawk and Clay Matthews III. But the final one, which is
C.J. or A.J. Hawk?
A.J. Hawk.
Yeah.
A.J. Hawk and Clay Matthews.
Oh.
Yeah. And then the third, not his dad or his grandfather. Because I guess they all played football.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. They just pass it down. Well, yeah, you see that nowadays. You see, Patrick Mahomes being a 7-year-old playing in a Major League Baseball field. So. My dad was a carpenter. I didn't like being a carpenter. If your dad's an NFL player, it's a legitimate thing. But the final one is a Notre Dame ball signed by Rocky Blyer. It's signed by Dave Casper, Coach Parsegian, and 2 more guys. I forget who they are. I can remember if I thought about it. But that's the beauty. That's an 11-time Notre Dame championship football, and there ain't a shot in hell they're winning anytime soon. They can get there every year. They can get there because of who they play.
Yeah, no, that's fair. They're 0-2 to start off the season this year, so it's probably not going to happen this year either.
But next week, when we were supposed to be recording, I'll be flying, and I already printed it out. There's only 1 legal sports book in Rhode Island. There are a dozen in Massachusetts, a half dozen in Connecticut, and a dozen in New York. And I'm going to take every single bonus I can. And that's what I'm spending my vacation, just going from state to state and banging bonuses.
Love it. Love every minute of it.
Bet $5, get 50. You see me? Bet 5, baby.
Yes, let's go.
The thing is, though, as you remember when I was talking to you guys when I was in New Orleans and I did it, you got to be able to be back in the state to cash.
Right.
So the way my trip works, I'm going to be in both places, all these states, at least 2 days, so I can cash. So that's it. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to talk. I'm not sure what my schedule is. I did, though, just picked up my laptop, threw a few $100s into getting my new South State ROM and a few more memory chips in there. So I'm hoping it works smooth. So we may talk, we may not, but I will keep you informed of the bonus. I did it before, and you know what? I won $80 one state. I think it was Pennsylvania. I won $80. My son goes $80. I said it's $80. If you start disrespecting $80, the gambling gods will never treat you well. Right? You take what you get, and you be damn glad to have it.
I think the theme of today's show, Chaz, is a profit is a profit is a profit. Make sure you guys are checking out Operation Domination on your favorite podcast app, and check out our video content on the Fantasy Football Advice YouTube channel. When you go to @FFAdviceNet, we had the start sits episode for you on Wednesday, our rankings, debates, and DFS for you as well. We had Dr. Brian Scott on. So everything you really need is that Operation Domination to get ready for your week, each and every single matchup. So let's get it done here. And guess what, guys? We'll see you next time. Chaz, you always like to say,
Yeah, always.
See you then.